welcome to another episode of Into the Pit. I decided to try something a little different this evening. I got several people on here from different groups, even got a lone wolf on here, and we're just going to have a talk about, how we do our investigations, what equipment we use, and those kind of things. And I'd like to introduce everyone. We have Michelle with Riverside, Iowa Paranormal. We have Audra and Nancy with West Suburban Paranormal Investigations. As I said before, we had a lone wolf. That would be Dan Litchfield. We have Drew, who's with Paranormal Postmortem. And my other buddy, Mike, who's with Midnight Paranormal Society. How y'all folks doing?
Yeah.
Good.
Very well.
All right. Well, we got the screen set up. We look like the Brady Bunch now. And you know what? Let's just start off with Audra and Nancy. And what do y'all usually do when you first go into starting an investigation?
Go ahead.
Generally, when we first go in, we do a small interview with the client. We always make sure all of us have our audio on before we even enter a residence. We do a lot of homes here in by the Chicago area. And basically, it's just the interview. We go through the house and see where we get some EMF readings, or just in general, depends on which person we have with us, whether they're getting a feeling. We have a couple of mediums in our team, and we kind of go by them as well, and that's where we're going to be setting up in different rooms. Okay. Setting up like for a true, like Audra does rods. We do rods a lot. We do Echovox sessions. A lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, I like using the dowsing rods. They work.
They do.
As long as the intention's there, I mean, they're going to work irregardless because they pick up things like, water lines and stuff like that. But if you put your intent into it first and get that communication with the spirits, so, hey, what's yes, what's no.
Right.
But yeah, I got you. And Michelle, why don't you give us your input?
Well, we do a little bit of both. We actually do mainly residentials. I'm actually a trans medium and psychic medium and demonologist. And so we actually have an intake coordinator that gets all the information. We have a big questionnaire that's filled out first and try to, kind of decipher through that. We do take in, I do more old school. Since I'm still part of the Warren Legacy Foundation, I kind of have done a lot of the stuff that Ed and Lorraine Warren do. And so I use like the Polaroid cameras because that is imprinted energy that's coming through there. It can't be manipulated too much. Dowsing rods I do use. Of course, I use little things like cat toys. I don't know if you've seen those cat balls. You actually have to hit them.
Yeah.
So they're not very sensitive. I use a lot of the old, alarms that you can put like on your windows and your doors. So if someone opens it, it starts going off. So it has to have that pressure. We use a lot of those because then we know if we're getting something going off, it actually had to put enough energy in it to make it go off. So it's not a very high sensitive type of thing.
Okay. Now it's funny you mentioned about Ed Warren because Drew, he's a big study on Ed Warren and the things that he did in his investigation. So you want to fill us in on what you do there, Mr. Drew?
Okay, so cool. So I run Paranormal Postmortem around the world, from UK and around Europe, in USA and Australia. So basically, I'm a clairvoyant. Yep, that's me, crazy clairvoyant. I work with Dan on the side as well. Me and him goes on broadcast with each other. He's the lone wolf, but he's also brings me on his shows, and I go on to other shows. And Paranormal Postmortem, let's get my words back in. Sorry about that, guys. Paranormal Postmortem, we have got team members from all different types of teams. And I studied, one of the most bad things was my best thing, again, Kyle said it, I studied Ed Warren. I speak to now with people who knows about Ed Warren, especially Tony is a good guy. Awesome, really guy, down to earth, part of the family, takes over the museum. one of my team members were best friends with Tony, and we linked up that way. But Ed Warren's one of my favorite. Ed Warren learned me a lot of things in study about demonology, and we also got a guy on our team called Ben, who has studied demonology really as well. So we're all working together in one. We investigate into a lot of abandoned locations or public people's houses, and we study why. And if I got a question, I'll go to Dan or someone again to revise that. I look back on my work. It's really important. I do.
Yes.
Again, it's quite a pleasure to do and meet all of you guys on here as well, and to the audience who's going out to this. My work is really important to my heart. Like Ed Warren was, he was very down to earth. He put people in his place where people believed in a lot of different ways, and being very heavily skeptic. Sorry out there. So he kind of fought for his grounds and said, hey, you know what, is something happening? And he proved that point. He actually did prove to a lot of people spirits were actually real for that point. And I kind of like Ed Warren because he studied himself, he learned himself like I did. I studied different ways. And it's really important, you know, we keep that legend on for Ed and Lynn Warren as well. Keep moving on with Ed and Lynn Warren. What they did was amazing. So that's what Paranormal Postmortem really works towards. We follow the sort of style. The old style, I agree with you 100%, is one of the best. Old styles are quite fun to use as well, because this world is literally turning into like a major EMF problem situation, whereas internet massively is running through the streets now, like the 5G. Again, that's going to make a problem in the paranormal field, I think.
Yeah.
So personally,
when you first go into a place, where do y'all start off at?
I kind of look around the house, look around the location, where the location is. We have to look for like routers or anything like big electrical, the electric wire cables. We just look and then we study the map first. We don't want somewhere where it's doing out the EMF signal, because the EMF signal is quite big in the UK at the moment. Sadly, is, and especially United States as well. It's starting to get really big with the signal. I usually go in and start looking and revising to see if that area's got some major connection, because and only that as well, we all suffer with earthquakes. As well, the UK suffer with small tremors. So I got to really precise on this location, pending how the property is actually working and how I need to sort it out. And this is why I come and pick on people like Dan or something. If I got something wrong and I don't feel like it's right, I'll come and pick on Dan, or come and pick on someone who likes doing paranormal. And it's more important I use that community of paranormal field.
And then Mike, who happens to have a show on our network. Mike, what do you do when you first come in?
So for my team and I, before we go into the location, our first step is making sure that if we're gonna take the case on, we make sure our paperwork is filled out. We want to have our waiver signed, release of liability, because we don't want to go to a location, step on the property, and let's say God forbid we walk in and something breaks, or the client gets hurt or we get hurt. I don't want to get sued, and I don't want to sue anybody. So it's very vital that we have our paperwork signed, because if they refuse to sign that paperwork, we are not going to step foot in that investigation. We're going to have to just respectfully move on, or say, hey, look, when you're ready to sign it, we'll come back, because nowadays it's unfortunate, but people try to sue you for everything, and we rather have our backs covered than to just kind of take someone's word. And then also too, another big thing that we kind of do is, we're big on transparency. We're big on trust and communication. So before we go into location, it's actually happened before. You can go to our Facebook page and see it. We make sure that our clients are not under the influence. They haven't been drinking, they haven't been doing any kind of drugs. We went through all those proper steps before we even step foot in the location, because if everything checks out, no one's drunk or high or anything, and they sign the paperwork, we want to make sure that we can use that footage or that that content, how we want to use it. And then also too, we want to make sure that we go in there, and if someone gets hurt, whichever side it is, everyone's covered. Once we've done that, and then everything is clear for us to go in, I myself will talk to the client, so will my case manager. For those who have abilities, we have this thing that we kind of an approach that we kind of go by. Once we are starting the investigation, we have our command center. You know, we'll pray before the investigation. Our cleanser Kayla, she'll come up to us. She'll put some holy water in her head like a cross. For those who have a different religion or different beliefs, you know, we say if you don't want to be a part of this prayer or a part of the holy water process, you're more than welcome to prepare yourself any way you want to. But we will not start an investigation until we're protected and ready mentally, you know, in every way possible. Then we start the investigation. And so what we kind of do is we'll break off into two teams: the people who have abilities and people who don't have abilities. For those who have abilities, we let them go first. Here's the thing: I don't let them use any kind of K2 meters. I don't let them use any kind of gadgets. You know, nothing that's going to be used to communicate with the spirits besides the raw abilities. And this is one thing I buy from my team a lot. I have tons of these notebooks all over my house. I buy these notebooks because, you know, I'm big on documentation. It's not only about using your equipment to document what's going on in a location. Simple pen and paper goes a long way. So my team, the ones who have abilities, the only devices they're allowed to use when they're going to go do their session is a camera, a recorder, or something to take still pictures. But they're not allowed to use anything other than that, only because, you know, I want them to be able to use their abilities to make contact with whatever's there. And then once they do their session and they come out of the location, those of us who don't have an ability, at least that we know of, that we had to heavily rely on, let's say the K2 meters, or let's say, you know, EMFs or whatever, you know, we need those devices to make contact. We'll do our sweep. Once we've done our sweep, at the end of the investigation, if we're taking a break, if we're outside just getting some air, the two teams never talk as far as what they found. We don't do that to the very end of the investigation. That way, for those who have an ability and picked up something, let's say they made contact with a woman, a man, a child, whatever the case is, and let's say those of us who use our devices, you know, made that same contact, we want to compare notes at the end of the investigation. What did you find with your ability? What did we find with our devices? And put those pieces together like a puzzle. And then from there, we kind of go over all the evidence. And then if we feel that's a valid piece of evidence, I mean, we go through a lot of steps before providing anything to anybody, because nowadays, everybody, not to be mean, but becomes a critic, and they think they know everything, and no one is an expert in this field. We learn. And so we want to make sure that we, you know, exhaust all our resources. Once we've done that and we feel it's a legit piece of evidence, we'll provide it. And even then, we're like, look, it's up to you to decide if it's real. If you don't believe it's real, that's on you, but here you go. So that's pretty much what we do.
Sweet. Now, Mr. Lone Wolf. So since you're not actually affiliated with a specific team, do you help out team to team to team, or what? How do you do this?
Well, basically, I mean, my background, I've only been on, you know, literally on my own for the past 12 months. Before that, I actually had my own team. Mm-hmm. 12 months ago, we all decided we wanted to do different things within the paranormal field. So, well, some team members wanted to become YouTubers, some team members wanted to work within the guidelines of other organizations within the paranormal. So as a result, it meant that, you know, you can't really have a team if it's just yourself, really, can you? So I decided that as much as I wanted to keep my team going, it was better off just being me. And it's just gone from there. I mean, when I had my team going, we used to go into premises. When we went into premises, we would go around to our baselines and everything. We would be filming, you know, documenting everything in that respect. I had team members that were documenting, obviously, written format, and we would go crazy with equipment. It's a bit different over here with regards to liability, because over here we have to, in most instances, we have to investigate premises. We have to have liability insurance. Waivers mean nothing in the UK, to be quite honest with you. It's pointless even getting anybody to sign a waiver over here, because if it went to court, they don't hold up. So having liability insurance to cover your back is, you know, generally you have to be covered for upwards of £5 to £10 million.
Wow.
in places. I mean, we've got some places over here. I'll give you an example. When I had my team, I'm the only person who's ever got what we call Longleat House. It's a massive, massive mansion house, which has a zoo attached to it. And they gave me the authorization to do it, and it was all cleared with security and everything. And then they told me how much they wanted off me to rent the place for the night, and including tax, it was £6,000. And obviously, when you're a team of 5, £6,000 is a bit expensive. So I think that was their way of saying thanks, but no thanks. But so it's a bit different when you're on your own, because predominantly now I'm a live streamer, so my documentation comes from that live stream. I go back, when I go into premises now, whether it be abandoned buildings or whether it be, I don't really do much in the way of home visits now. But when I go into any places like, for example, I did Dudley Castle not long ago, up in the Midlands, which is Birmingham area. When you go into those places, you do have to meet up with other teams and things, but you still work on your own. So when you do the different areas, you will then go in and document anything in terms of EMF and bits and pieces like that. What can be causing anything? So we do all that, and then obviously we will start our investigation. Well, I'll start my investigation, I should say, and pretty much go from there. But mine are all pretty much live streams. So everything you see is live at the time, and then once I'm finished up for the night and I get back home, I go through everything again just to document it in a format that is easy for everybody to watch, because obviously a 3, 4, 5 hour live streams, it's a lot for people to go back through. So go in, get all the best bits, condense it down, and then 9 times out of 10 find more bits and pieces.
Gotcha. Yeah, with our team, number one, we have a guy that is really good with looking up the properties and getting the history and everything of it. And we have actually 2 mediums that work with us, and they will start picking stuff up before we even get there. And then once we're there, of course, we've got the waivers. We have a disclosure letting them know if we find any evidence that that belongs to us, so we can put it on our social media, that kind of thing. Now, if they're pretty adamant about being anonymous, then we do everything we can to, not let anybody know where we're at, that kind of thing. We, in fact, went to a city building, and I can't even tell you what city it was in, but they definitely didn't want that getting out. I'm like a lot of y'all, go in, we'll do a sweep, with the K2 meters and things like that. I also like to go around and check the outside environment. This particular building, they had claimed hearing voices and things like that, and then we found out that there's a bar not even a block from there, and people come out of the bar and they're belligerent and they're yelling and screaming, and like, oh, that's probably where you're hearing all these voices. But everybody's got a different way of doing things, and it works for them. But I guess we can all agree that not every investigation is going to be the same anyway.
I agree there. I agree there.
All right, let's talk about equipment. Now, Mike and I both have been pretty much friends with the guys from Ghost Hunters, the new Ghost Hunters, and we talk to them pretty frequently. It's kind of cool. They give you their phone numbers and and emails and all that, and you talk back and forth with them, and they're pretty ready to talk to you.
Yeah.
A lot of the equipment that even I've used, they're like totally against. They said it's pretty much worthless. One that I was so excited when we finally got it was the Ovulus.
Oh, it's everybody's dream to get one of them.
Exactly. And I noticed that as soon as you turn it on, it goes through its little vocabulary. And sometimes it gets quiet, doesn't say anything, and then sometimes it just keeps going and going and going. Now, personally, I'm done with it. I think it's useless, but you know, everybody has their opinion. So who wants to take off on this one?
Well, I mean, for me, I mean, obviously the obelisk. I mean, there's always been over here. It's what everybody wants, you know, but nobody wants any other one bar the obelisk 3. You know, if it's over here, it's pointless to talk to anybody about any other version of it. You know,
Right.
Everybody wants that, but everybody likes the dictionary mode on it, and it's just a word generator. You know, me, I prefer the phonetic setting on it, if anything. When I used to have mine,
Right.
the phonetic setting, and then on top of that, the heat sensor on top. You know, that's always a good bit, you know, to get obviously yes and no answers potentially.
Well, you know, the potential for, I guess, a mechanical error or even the human error in creating the thing, to me seems a little unreliable. Although I can say that I've had it on investigations and certain things will pop up on there that we're talking about at the time. So I don't know. Who else wants to talk on this one?
We've had a couple of experiences. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
We've had a couple of experiences. One involved where we were in the car on the way to the investigation, and we were talking about a car in front of us, and it happened to be a Tesla. And when we were at the investigation, the obelisk did come up with the word Tesla. So we were kind of, that's a little weird. Last week we were at an investigation, and it was myself, Nancy, and one of our other female investigators, and the obelisk said each of our child's name.
No kidding.
That was really odd.
That's crazy.
It was unsettling.
And Michelle, you were going to say something?
I personally don't like it. I think it can be manipulated a little bit too much, but now when you're doing small events and you have people who want to, you know, be there and hear things, we might use it for them because they want everything right then. So during events, I think it's a good thing to use, but when we're doing a home or I'm doing just a private investigation, we don't like using it at all.
And Mike.
Well, I mean, honestly, like when we do our live
froze
investigation myself, I've used other apps. I've used other apps and other devices that were similar to it, and I think, to be just honest, 100%, it's more so for entertainment for the viewers because. Yes. You know, realistically, like there's an app that I use, and I don't know if you guys have all heard of it. It's called Necrophonics.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, you know, I use that, and someone brought it to my attention, you know, and so I used it, and one thing that my one of my tech guys, his name's Robert, he's my co-host in my show. You know, he's real into he asks so many questions. Sometimes you're like, stop, but he asks you. It's just he wants to learn more about these things, and so what he did was. He purchased the app, he turned it on, and he would say keywords, and then later on the app would say it too, and he was like, wait a second, like this is not right, you know? And so, you know, whenever we have investigations where we won't use those specific apps or specific devices, and we notice that you don't get so many views because of it, but then the moment you do, the chats light up like fire. So I think honestly, going forward, the purpose of it is only for entertainment. That's it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I tend to use I use one called the Portal Plus, but I don't use it on its own. I hook it up through what people call a portal device, you know, which is an amp with, you know, the pedals attached to it, just to be able to filter out any of the stuff in the background. And you tend to find you get anything that's more prominent then comes through. You don't get all the background stuff.
Yeah, I hear you. And Drew, what's your opinion on the obelisk?
I'm not really kind of a big fan of it, personally. I'm not a massive fan of it. I don't really look into it yet. Reason why it haven't come to my attention when stuff like that. Because I prefer using some old sets, if you get what I mean. Something really old sets. I personally, I don't know. I think sometimes, again, I just don't really think personally. I haven't got a word for it. I haven't got a word for it, and that's how bad I am at the moment with stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's because my usual tech guy would come on and explain things, but I'm not a fan of stuff like this, because sometimes it can work in many different ways. There's all these guys coming up and saying stuff. I'm not really a major fan of technology. I'm not an ICT tech person and fan of all this sort of stuff. I'd rather stick to my own guns, and the amount of old stuff I use come out perfect than what the actual day-to-day is of 20th century. I should say the 20th century of the equipment is, I think, is too much of technology instead of actually kept me steady and easy. Anything could be so whatever.
Well, I think that
So I'm just personally not a big fan of.
I think in certain circumstances, when there's an anomaly, I guess you'd call it, it could be helpful. But as far as presenting that as evidence to our clients, I just couldn't in good conscience do that.
I think the biggest problem with it is it brings up a similar principle to, looking at screenshots from, and things like that, where you get it's not just the visual pareidolia that you get in that side of it. You get an audio pareidolia with any of these apps, and also the Ovilus as well, no matter what. Same with the spirit boxes, they're of the same, genre really, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get an audio pareidolia come up with them no matter what.
Now, I'm glad you brought up the spirit box, because there's lots of times you hear what you want to hear when those things are going.
Yeah.
But I can say that I've had an investigation where this spirit box was cussing. And if you know anything about FCC regulations here in the United States,
yeah,
that is not allowed on the radio.
Same here, unless it's after 9 p.m. at night, then it's not allowed here.
Yeah, we can't even do that after 9 o'clock around here, especially the F-bomb.
Yeah.
So that's not a coincidence that this word is being said. You're being cussed out and things like that. But I guess if we capture that part, I might use it as evidence. But for the rest of it, I don't think I could use that as evidence either. So
talking about, I'm sorry, I mean interrupt anybody.
No, that's what we're here for.
Talking about the spirit box, of course I saw it starting off, with the, and it was actually, I think, a little bit before Ghost Adventures, people were, making the Radio Shack versions of it. But I remember when I bought mine from the, I think it's called ghoststop.com website.
Mm-hmm.
I purchased it, and of course, because I saw Ghost Adventures at the time, I was like, I wonder how real it is, because anytime I see these people in TV use certain devices, I question, like, are they programming it to say these certain words, or, have these certain responses at a certain time? They can manipulate it that way. So I bought one. It came in, and this was back in like 2014, 2015. My sister and my cousin, my sister's my co-founder of my team. At the time, she and my cousin got a house. My cousin's daughter was being plagued by something in the house, and my cousin, she's one of those hardcore Christian ladies. She don't believe in the paranormal. She don't believe in none of that. I mean, it could be right in front of her. A ghost could be there, and she'll have an explanation for it. And so her daughter has a very unique name. Okay, my cousin went to California when she was a teenager to become this actress or whatever, and she went to a play, and she named her daughter's name after the play. So anyways, fast forward to the investigation, to when they moved into the house. I went into the home, and I just got the spirit box in the mail, and I said, listen, I've never used a spirit box before. I'm going to go to her room, respectfully, everybody stay as far away from the room as possible. I'm going to unlock both doors, because there's 2 doors. Whatever you hear, or whatever don't come to the rooms. Let me be there by myself. I go in there, I pray, and then I start my session. And, one of my questions was, when I first started, it was, I said, my cousin's daughter is being affected by something here in this house. I said, before we go any further, I want to know if you know who I'm talking about. I said, if you do know who I'm talking about, the person in question, can you say their name for me, please? And not once did I say the name of my cousin's daughter. And this man, as soon as I asked the question, a man came through and said her name 3 times in a row. He said, Eurydice, Eurydice, Eurydice. And to me, it would have been different if I would have heard like my name's Mike, like Mike or Joe, or some name that maybe common that came on the radio. But for me to hear Eurydice, unless it was a coincidence or it would just happened to be that name specifically was coming to the radio at that time, but for it to say her name 3 times in a row, that to me, I don't believe in coincidences. I felt like that was a real experience that I had. But other than that, I think that was the most legit time, or at least in my time of me investigating that box blew me away because I heard her name 3 times come through that device. It's really amazing.
Well, I actually have a spirit box sitting here, actually. It's a custom built one.
Oh, nice. You can send that to me. I'll give you my address when you leave.
So it's an old radio that what we've done was we've gutted it. So there's just a casing of the old radio, and then from there what we've done is put a radio set into it. Not from an actual radio. It's a kit we purchased. We pulled in all the parts for and then hacked it to make for it so it scans, and it sounds really cool. It's got reverb in it and everything, so it sounds pretty cool. But I haven't had a chance to test it yet because we're in lockdown.
So you can just send it to me. I'll test it for you. It has its ups and downs. I don't know if y'all watch Kindred Spirits with Amy Bruni and Adam Berry, but one of their experiments is one of them will put on a blindfold and the headphones and listen to the spirit box while the other one is asking questions. And so we decided to try that out ourselves, and when you were getting specific answers to specific answers, or specific answers to specific questions, excuse me, blah blah blah, is it coincidence? I don't know. But once again, that's something that's really hard for me to pass on as evidence to the client. So what's your take on that, Drew?
Sorry, I can't hear at the moment. We're having a problem connection due to an helicopter passing through. It's the military coming through again, because I'm not far off from the airport, and the military is based from us.
I got you. So, spirit box, yay or nay?
Spirit box. I'm in between with spirit box because I use one type of spirit box, and I found out pretty well how we use the connection of the radio going through the radio system. But when we got something, it'll come out clearly. So I'm going to say yay on that one. We kind of like using spirit box sometimes, but we've got to make 100% sure what information it gets coming out. So we'll look into it when we go through Oxford University to get history and just work on it. We kind of dig for the information. We don't hold back on that. So spirit box, I say yay myself at the moment.
And how about you, Michelle? Michelle, are you there?
Oh,
there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, it keeps lagging in and out for some reason. I would have to say I'm okay with the spirit box. We've done the Gonsfeld experiment, the headphones, covering the eyes. And when you get those answers, we actually put someone in a different room. So this way people can't say it's coming through the headphones.
Exactly.
We use a lot of white noise, old TVs, your old little 19-inch TVs. We like using a lot of that white noise to actually help try to filter. So it's like a different type of spirit box. Me personally, it's if I see the spirit there and something comes across, then I'm kind of legit with it.
Okay. Audra and Nancy.
We actually use a device called an Echo Box, which is an app that you can purchase for your phone or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of really great results with that. I don't have a spirit box. Audra has one, but we've not really played with it a whole lot in investigations. We mainly use the Echo Box.
She won't let you play with their toys.
Sometimes, if I'm a good girl, she'll let me.
It's
Okay.
funny though, the echo box, we do get the F word that comes out a lot, but that's usually just us telling me that my spirit guide's with us for the night.
Get
Yeah,
in
that's
line.
one of me that I've really struggled ever with. I've never really got on with it. I've never worked out how to set it up very well. I've got it, but it's just one app that I've never really sort of got on with personally.
I'm going to talk about two more devices, and then we're going to move on from that. But one of them is the SLS camera. Now, let me tell you about the SLS. I got one. But I noticed that sometimes it'll pick things up just because of the object itself. I've only really had one real incident that I felt like it really worked. And the only reason why I say that is because we were at a house and the lady that lived there slept on the couch all the time, and her mother always sat in a chair right next to her. And as the evening went on, here's this figure sitting in the chair. Now you could say it's picking up the chair, but at one point you can see this figure leans over and acts like it's talking to the person at the couch. And we're like, okay, if you're really there, I want you to lift your arm and wave. And it did exactly what I said.
Wow.
So I know a lot of people aren't crazy about it. The ghost hunters aren't too crazy about it. I see, Nancy, you're shaking your head, so you tell me.
We don't have one of those.
We
right?
don't.
That's one of our dream pieces of equipment. Eventually, we'll get one, but yeah, we've been looking for some results on that to weigh the price of it. And some people are with it, some people are against it. So we don't have any experiences though.
I got you, Michelle.
If when we use it in like an open area and you don't have door jams and things like that, and you get something that's pretty exciting, well, our tech guy actually can build them. And we have some for all the team members. Now, doing it in a home investigation, we don't, because there is a lot of things that can manipulate it.
Exactly.
So it depends on where we're at when we use it. Me personally, I'm not very fond of it because, a door jam will turn into a person and look like it's dancing. So I do have some issues with that piece.
Yeah, well, all these spirits, they seem to dance around when you have the SLS on.
I had tap dancing, jazz, they got jazz hands and everything. So they really do. But if you're in an open building, like if you were at Waverly and you got the long hallways and you go down those and you start getting something, then you can start looking at it as being, okay, this could be.
Oh,
I think she
Michelle.
froze.
Yeah, Michelle froze on us. All right, Mike, I'm going to pass this one on to you.
Well, I mean, honestly, man, it's funny because I have all the pieces to make the device. The only thing I'm missing is a laptop or something that has Windows 7 on it. So I have all the pieces I haven't put together, but I've seen other people use it in investigations with me. And I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, there's times where something comes through. Like, okay, let me give an example. For those who don't know, and I believe Kyle may know, yeah, I think I told you about this one. The case where the client, I had to take her from the 3rd floor down to the 1st floor because something she became attacked. Well, this something really interesting happened with the SLS in her room where it all occurred. She was, she started, hyperventilating. She started, she lost it, man. She just flipped she was out of there. The moment she collapsed and she, looked like she passed out, when she came to, I mean, she was just all over the place. We grabbed her, tried to move her from the room, and when we moved her, the SLS camera was not in the room when this was happening. They brought it into the room after she had gone, and she was out of the room for maybe like 30 minutes, maybe. When they brought the SLS into the room, that spot where she was at on the ground, as soon as they turned the SLS on and they were doing the screen capture, it registered something right there in that same exact spot where she was at in almost the same exact position. I can't explain that. I don't, I don't know, how to get in depth with that thing to say, hey, well, it could have been like a residual energy thing. Who knows? But it registers something there in the same exact spot. And so, just me seeing that, it was really interesting. But again, I don't know how that really thoroughly works, so I can't really say.
Well, I would think if you can get it to do something and it does exactly what you ask it to do, then yeah, there's got to be something there. But is it always accurate? No, I don't feel like it's always accurate. There's too many things that can cause it to actually move. Like Michelle was saying, there's door jams and things like that it looks like something's dancing right there and there's nothing there at all.
Yeah.
All right, Drew. Yay or nay on the SLS?
Nay.
Nay. Enough said. Okay, we'll move on to Dan now.
Drew knows exactly what I'm going to say.
Very quickly, the Stickman, again, I've been watching a lot. I don't have the system, okay? Personally, reason why, you can play about with it. I've heard things about it. I've seen a lot where people is correct, when they put it in the room, suddenly they start dancing. Hell, that'd be funny if they started dancing personally, because they say, look, I'm here, but actually they, personally, my truth about the stick man, I call it a stick. The reason why is a figure of stick, and personally, the system on it, I think you can, I know this is really make everyone say, okay, maybe things are not, so I don't want to cause a situation on your broadcast. But my personal thinking, if you had the system, they could actually, I think they could fake it. Do you get what I mean? So basically, could the system actually be them, but you can play with the settings and then going through it properly? I think you can fake on the stick man. And personally, again, yeah, I could see about the door situation and all that. But it does something about the stick man. I wanted one then. Dan actually have to show me to look into it a bit more, so I did. And the real interest in it is I don't really kind of now want one, because it is possible it could just pick up again electrical I can't say it today, electrical magnetic fields, where it might just be particle dust in forms or something. It could possibly does pick up something like that, and I'm not really a big fan on it personally now, because I've realized the difference between it, and it's been ages since I started doing that, and I really wanted one, but one of my team members think is if a jiffy they wanted one just to get the experiment. I said, well, I'm sorry, no, personally I think it's a little bullcrap for my stage, and that's the way it is.
Okay, Dan, I know you're itching to say something.
I could probably go all night on what people call an Sls camera, because everybody calls it a structured light sensor, but it's not. Unless you buy the specific one that was specifically built as, and it was called an Sls camera, which the structured light sensor is. It also does heat, so it does temperature. It does all different sensors. It has loads of different sensors built into it, so you get a full graph of heat and light and etc. going on. Anybody who uses a Kinect generally uses it in a completely wrong sense, because they've made them portable, and that's the problem. A Kinect camera was made to sit on the top of your TV or just below your TV, and is designed to pick up, and it's actually made, it's programmed to pick up on specifically things like your limbs, your body, because of movement, and then on top of that, it picks up on furniture and things. So it's programmed into the system, the average shape of a chair or a table or things like that, and a door, as you were saying. So it will pick up on it and it will only work up to about 6 feet away, because that's what it's meant to. Like the average small front room of a house or bedroom is what it's meant for. I don't use the Kinect software myself. I use a different software, and I use a different camera as well. I use a different motion tracking camera. The one I use is made for robotics. So the program that I use is nothing to do with the Connect or anything like that. It's completely separate software that's designed to specifically pick up on anything in terms and turn it into a stick figure if there is motion there. So I mean, I've had really good evidence from it where I make sure mine's static as well. It goes on a tripod. The sensor does. It sits on a tripod and doesn't move. So where I've had it, there's a venue in a place called Mansfield here called The Village, and they've got pillars in the main section of it, and those pillars have got little sort of pedestals at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And I've had it where we actually had what looked like a stick figure the size of a small child sitting on the actual pedestal. And when I went over to it and moved my arm, this stick figure turned and faced me. And so that was a really good bit of evidence we got, because just before that we caught a shadow figure on camera in the same area. So wow. It's, you know, those things, we corroborated those bits and pieces with the actual evidence and the stories from the past that have been in that venue, you see. There was a small child that was actually raped and killed on the site originally, before all the buildings were there. There was no buildings there before, you see. So SLS cameras, everybody calls them an SLS camera. They're not an SLS camera. That's why I always call mine a stickman setup, because that's what it is, really. I say to everybody, if you're going to buy one, make sure it's static. Don't have a handheld one, because it's not designed for that. You're always going to get false information out of it if it's handheld. That's the thing.
Okay. All right. One last piece of equipment I want to talk about, and then I have another procedure that I would really like to get this in before we have to end, because believe it or not, we're getting pretty close to the end. So let's try to make these answers as quick as possible. I'm going to start with Michelle and the REM pod.
REM pod, I would say I kind of like it if it's, you know, not in the center of, you know, where everybody's at. If you put it in a room by itself, that's not been contaminated, I think it does pretty well.
Okay. Mike?
Well, I finally used one with another fellow investigator outside of NPS. He brought one to a case of ours, and something about it was just a little off for me. I mean, everywhere we put it, it just kept going off and going off and going off, and we try to make sure there was nothing that would cause it to go off, like any kind of power lines or anything that would, naturally make it spike or react. And no matter what we did, it just kept going off and off, all throughout the whole house. And took it outside and we turned it off, took the batteries out, changed the batteries, and everything we did for it, it just kept, just going off randomly. Like, it wasn't like we asked a question or, can you make this thing go off? It was just on its own, just boom, boom, boom. And so to me, it was just, I didn't really like it, and I just stopped using it.
Okay.
I asked for the gentleman to put it away.
All right, back to you, Dan.
Well, I'll try and keep it short and sweet. Up until October last year, I owned the UK rights to the REM pod. So
really?
Up until October last year, yeah, because Mr. Goldcrew himself only owns any rights in the States, you see. So a couple of years back, we found out what was inside of the REM pod, which is a junior theremin, and we started building our own, and we basically took out the rights on the design of it. So, and up until those rights ran out in October last year. So my personal thoughts on it, though, I've only ever got I've got one of the original REM pods, and my one's only ever gone off once. We worked that out. It was old wiring in the building. We flicked the light switch off, and we flicked the light switch on, and the REM pod went off. All of us went up there, ran up there, tried a bit of communication. Nothing more come of it at all. Went back downstairs, tested it with the light switch, flicked the light switch off, then flicked it back on, REM pod went off again. So exactly what Mike was saying with regards to, electromagnetic field fluctuations can, outside sources can mess with it. But it's a good bit of equipment, but I've never had any results from it.
Okay. And you said it's got like parts from a theremin in it?
It's a junior theremin, yeah. Okay. It's basically a mini version of a theremin instrument.
So did you try to play Star Trek on it? All right, Drew. Give me your opinion.
Nope.
He says no comment. He says what Dan said.
He's too much of a, he's more of a spiritual.
I played with Renford before, and again, I'm going to agree with on this situation with Dan. But we did have a good outcome because we went to a location where it was no any location or Wi-Fi or any internet, no live stream, no electricians, not much of an EMF area. And this is the only bit we kind of try to work out. How the hell did it get it to bleep and that? And we tried everything. We tried to work it all out, and we still couldn't work it out. Even we went a bit further ahead and called a friend of ours who works in the area as an electrician around the locations of the area, and he said no, there's no official wires going through, but there's some going through to the local houses. They weren't sending much out, so we were stunned how it just went off on our demand. So I'm going to say, personally between me, I like REM pods, and I'll give them a little bit of support, but in between with Dan as well. So I'm going to go in between the slice of a cake, I would say. There's different type of things all about REM pods personally, and everyone's got their own opinion, and everyone's got their own stuff to deal with it and their own investigation. But again, the more study can be done with them, the more it can get either this case out of like REM pods are not good, or either the REM pods are good. The more cases you got out there, they say, hey, actually, this REM pod is crap, and then I personally would say, well, okay, yeah, I understand it, but it's an answer there, yes or no, basically, and no one can answer that one really. Not even the best person in the world can answer it, and sadly, that's where we're stuck between technology these days now, or 2020 again. We can't answer the full word of it. It can't. So,
okay,
I'm in between of it at the moment. If I can cut down on it.
I hear you, Audrey and Nancy.
Nancy's got a REM pod, and the thing is so sensitive, especially when the batteries are low. That's when we always seem to have the lights going off, and so the other is the temperature gauge, and that seems to go off even if there's not even a 1 degree shift. The temperature gauge will go off to a point of where we were at an investigation and we thought that it might actually be giving us Morse code from it. I joined a ham radio team on Facebook and I sent them the clip, but the problem was that I was talking over the stupid thing the entire time. Hey, that sounds like Morse code. Do you think that might be Morse code? We couldn't get anything from it because I wouldn't shut up. So,
It's
the chip on the board for the junior fireman, you see, has a program. Part of the code on the chip is designed so that it will go off continuously if the batteries are low.
right.
So
Really?
it's a program in it. Yeah, it's just like telling you that it needs a battery change.
Right.
Now, I'll say this, and mind you, I put 2 sets of batteries on that thing, the little 9-volt batteries, just to make sure. But you talked about the whole Morse code thing.
Mm-hmm.
It started doing that, and then it just got quiet. And I found an app on my phone where you could actually put in a sentence, and then it would do the versions of the beeps and all that stuff in Morse code. And they weren't sitting next to each other, mind you, so it wasn't the vibrations or anything. It was talking back and forth.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it sounded like Morse code. And found out that the place we were at actually used to be a post office back in the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
So,
Holy
Morse
cow.
code? Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, one more subject, and then we're going to have to call it quits. And this one is kind of... It means a lot to me because I have a very strong opinion about it. Provoking. And since we started with y'all, when we started this thing, I'm going to start again with you, Audrey and Nancy.
Absolutely not.
No.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Never.
Never.
Never. You have to respect those spirits. They're there for a reason. They live their lives. They've done their thing. You've got to respect that.
Exactly. Michelle,
Oh, I think she's froze again.
are you froze again, Michelle? She's just tired of our conversation. All right, Mike. Well, we'll go with you.
I had to agree. I don't do I don't provoke in any way because, you know, not to make a long answer, but the way I see it is I'm being called for a service. I'm being called because these people need assistance, and who am I to go in there and add to the already existing activity? You know, it's ridiculous. And I know people say, oh, there's different ways, there's different things you could do with provocation, but to me, ultimately, it's you know, this is not a physical thing that you can stop if something happens. It's a spiritual thing, and there's no way if, let's say, someone gets attacked, I can't physically walk up to whatever's there and touch in the chest and push it away. So, you know, you gotta be very mindful, even if whatever's there is being disrespectful to you, or, you know, being ugly. Just you keep your cool, and, you know, just be respectful, because you just never know what can happen.
Exactly. All right, Michelle, are you there now?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
I hear you.
Yes.
Actually, no provoking. And if any team member is caught doing it, they're pretty much hand your bag in and have a nice day.
Good for you. Good for you. Drew?
I can hear the big gulp.
There you are.
I can hear the big gulps. Definitely no focus. I kind of use different tech ways to work with the spirits anyway. No matter what the situation is. Again, I agree with everyone. No provoke.
All right,
Because
I
I think
you.
I would say it depends on your definition of provocation, really. I think
I agree.
if you have to ask the question more than once, potentially you are provoking in some ways. So I think if you're respectful, and yes, you might ask the same question 2 or 3 times to try and get a definitive answer. You could be, as I say, you could be deemed as some form of provocation. So if you're doing it in a respectful manner, then as long as you're not going in swearing or cussing or trying to push them by calling them every thing under the sun, I think as long as if it's just questions and you're being under respectful questions, even if you have to ask them 2 or 3 times, then that's respectful provocation to a degree. But it's the same with anybody. You don't want to be asked the same question over and over again. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, I've had 3 kids. I know exactly what that means. And now the grandkids. But
so,
you
yeah,
know,
be respectful is the simple answer to that one.
exactly. Well, you know, the provocations, you know, basically what we'd see on certain television shows where they come in and go, hey, you know, you're so big and bad, then come mess with me. You know, I think that you're worthless. That's kind of along the lines of what we were talking about.
That's all show for
And then
TV.
they run away.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude run is the phrase most people know over there, isn't it? Dude run.
Yeah. That's it.
Right, bro.
Good old Mr. Harmer.
one thing on my show is me and Taylor, when we experiment, because we work with the spirits very, very closely, like everyone else. Me and Taylor have an experiment. We have the experiment because on the UK, on the radio shows, Taylor's been named like the basically they give their name a nickname as what they call it, the Queen Scram, Scream, or the Queen of Scrams, because we try to show people if you do stuff in a negative way, it's the wrong way to do it. So this is what can possibly happen. So we try to show, to me, in personal minded, never go in with provoking, never do it. Okay, this is where I work. I work completely different to every others. I don't try and provoke. I show people what happens if you provokes. It kind of goes to the wrong way about it and how to deal with it. And to show, me and my wife kind of work very, very closely and try and show the point. It is something there. You know, if you go into proving, this is why they're scramming people. Even if you just sit down and ask them to scram you, you're basically provoking them, no matter what the situation is. Even if you ask them to throw a stone, again, that's provoking. Anything's provoking. But even if you have that manner, you got to think about it logically, and you have to be very psychologically and mindful on it as well. And personally, this is where I work with a lot of people and give out certain advices to people. Just have an open mind a little bit and just think about the way the questions are answered usually, because we've made a lot of improvement, me and Tila have, is to certain questions when you ask them, can you scram me? Can you chuck a stone? Can you, and that's actually classed as provoking as well at the same time. And that's why I've done these experiments. So that's why she was named as the Queen Scram on a radio show, because she was getting scrammed all the time.
I think I have to ask the question. Do you guys know what the word scram means?
No.
I'm just nodding my head yes, and
Come on, Dan.
conversation.
See, he is clairvoyant. He could tell. We all were like,
Let's just say we say, like, we'll turn around and say silly things like scram, but that means basically scratched, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Or we'll say,
okay.
That's what I was kind of thinking, because he said scram.
yeah.
And I was thinking it's maybe scratch. So
There's a difference between scran and scram.
Okay.
Oh. Well, I
Scram is
thought
food.
I thought with Drew it meant that you were cramming spam into your mouth.
I always do this on any show. I always give the different words out from any show. Do you listen to it on the radio show? I even said, I'm not going to say it. Wait, no, I'll bugger it. Shall I say it? I actually said bondage there, bonding. I actually said on the thousands of people watching, 50,000 to nearly 250,000 followers.
Yeah.
I hear you.
We have some strange words over in the UK, that, so.
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
good. You're good.
Where I'm from, we say babber. Babber, it's basically that. We say, all right, my babber, like that. And it just means, it's, in other words, all right, love, that sort of thing, How
Gotcha.
you doing? It's basically what we say. So daft things like that,
Well, as long as you can understand us, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Y'all.
That's the one.
Yeah, I crack up Drew all the time when I talk to him. I'm like, hey, y'all. And he says, y'all.
Oh, well,
Yes,
Drew's from deep South Wales, you see. Well, South Wales obviously in the UK, and it's when you listen to some of the way that they speak, I mean, you can't understand a word they're saying half the time.
Subtitles, please.
yeah.
Subtitles you wouldn't be able to understand them.
You got the UK Southern drawl.
That's it. But to me, to you, I might sound a bit farmerish. You know what I mean? But I actually live in South Wales now, and Drew actually lives nearer to where I'm from, so we've kind of switched places. So I'm picking up a bit more of a Welsh lingo, and he's picking up a bit more of a farmerish lingo. So it's
soon as Drew gets here and for the visit, and we're gonna teach him all kinds of stuff. So you're really gonna say he's got an accent.
No, I didn't tell Dan about this yet. Basically, me and Taylor's actually taking the baby for a couple of holidays down in Texas to enjoy with Kyle. So literally, me and Kyle's got like a lot of date booking out type of thing, and his wife. So me and Kyle's having a date, like we said.
We got some barbecuing and some gun shooting to do.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Definitely.
Well, we didn't agree on everything 100%, but I say the provoking, we all agree on that. That's bad. Shouldn't do that. I know there's still people out there that do it, but everybody agrees it's disrespectful. Here you've got a tortured soul already. Why torture them any further?
But do you know what, Carl? I think I'll say to you this much though, with that. I was saying it on my show earlier on. Basically, I mean, we all have a different belief system when it comes to the paranormal, whether that's spiritual, whether that's whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? And but the one thing everybody's got to understand is every single thing to do with the paranormal really is theory based. There's nothing concrete that proves that there is life after death at the moment, and so every single thing we use, whether that's a technical piece of equipment or whether it's a spiritual belief, it's all theory based, really, isn't it? So it's a belief system. I think.
Well, apparently you haven't woke up on a Monday morning with a hangover if you don't believe in life after death.
I don't. Trust me, I don't drink. I don't drink. When the last time I did, it was in the middle of the forest. I woke up and.
Well, everyone that joined us, I sure appreciate you being here. You took time out of your day, and that means a lot. Took time out of Drew and Dan's night because it's after midnight over there.
10 past 1 here.
10 past 1. See,
Wow.
they stayed up late for us.
Oh, we're in lockdown, so 3 o'clock in the morning's like bedtime.
I got you. I think this turned out pretty good, and I'm willing to do this again if y'all are.
Be awesome, yeah. Thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about some more in depth, like the meat of things. You know, I would love to do that. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
And if
this
anybody
was-
wants to come on my show as well, I'm doing nightly shows now at 8 p.m. UK time, so it'll probably be about 3 in the afternoon for you guys, I'd imagine.
we can do that.
You know, you're more welcome to come over on my page and join me if you want. I've got Daryl from Ghost Hunters on with me Saturday. So
You got Daryl?
yeah, Daryl Marston's with me on Saturday. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna love Daryl.
Yeah, I'm hoping I've got Brian Cano on Thursday. So I'm just waiting for confirmation because he said he might be going back to work, and then I'm still yet to hear back. I've had good chats with my brain's just gone to mush now. It's too late, I think, for me.
Showing your age.
I've had some good chats with a few other different people, but I'm just waiting for replies at the moment. But yeah, Daryl's confirmed for Saturday night.
Yeah, I had Daryl. I had Daryl yesterday in the evening.
I saw that. Yeah, when Drew sent me a link to your page. Yeah,
That was awesome. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
I pretty much have all of them pretty locked down, and I just got confirmation from Kristen from herself. She all I need now is Grant, man. And once I get Grant, I'm good.
Yeah, good luck with Grant, though.
Oh man, let me tell you something, man. There's no such thing as impossible. So
That's
as long as
true.
you
That's true.
speak into existence, it'll happen, man.
I'll tell you what, the best guy I've ever spoken to in the past is Rob Demarest. I'll be honest with you.
Rob.
Rob's an amazing guy, and he's hilarious, and he just says it as it is. And the moment I know that, the last time I spoke to him, I said, "What do you reckon of this app?" And I'll tell you, I can't even repeat what he said, but it was pretty much in the let's just say it was a few swear words short of "I don't like this."
Don't worry, we have a disclaimer at the beginning of the show, so if anybody cusses,
But yeah, so yeah, we got a few things. So I was actually, when I set up my group initially, my first group, I was actually went on the list as a family member of the Ghost Adventures team as well when all that was happening. So I was one of the only 4 teams in the UK to actually be on their list. Usually it was a case of you had to have at least 3 years experience, and I've done so many investigations, and that we got accepted after 12 months of being around. So we did 54 investigations in the first year, and that's pretty much what got us the link onto them. So couldn't go too wrong.
well, we'll keep in touch because I would love to come on your show.
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be great to have you on.
And
That would be nice.
I'm gonna have a little talk with Kristen because she still hasn't answered me back.
Yeah,
I
and Michelle as well.
got it.
Yourself as well. I'd love to have you on because it'd be good to talk about Ed and Lorraine.
Sweet.
I think Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle. I would love to talk to you about that. I think she froze again. Oh, there she
I
is.
see.
I'm
She
here.
froze with an.
At
I have to
least
say
she fro-
though,
She
Hey,
froze
you know
with a
what's
smile on her
funny?
face.
Hey, you know
That
what's
was
funny? You ask a question and she lags, and then when you're not gonna ask the question, she comes back.
that's it.
Better late than never, right?
No, you're good.
No, actually, it'll be great because I do work right next to Chris, who is Ed and Lorraine's grandson, and
Yeah.
we're continuing the foundation work. So I'd love to come and talk about it.
Yeah. I did
I'll-
message
I'll-
Tony and
I'll-
ask him if he wouldn't mind coming on, but so I haven't had a response yet. But
And it's two sides, because like Tony and Judy take care of like because they hooked up with the Warner Brothers in Hollywood, where Chris went off to continue the work that his grandparents did.
Yeah,
so
I speak
it's
to Chris
both
now and
sides.
again. Yeah,
Yeah, he's good peeps.
yeah, he's a lovely guy.
So
Yes.
But no, Michelle, real quick, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to talk to you because I have a current client who she has some very interesting vintage dolls that we've been working with for like maybe 4 years already, and I want to show you some of the evidence that we've collected from the dolls, and it just I'm getting tongue tied, but it's just scary to see the grip that these things have on her. It's crazy.
We do that because I deal with a lot of like haunted objects, and so people send them to me, and I actually store them up just like the museum, like the Warrens. And I have a box that came to me from Colorado, 34 dolls that had an attachment to a person. So yeah.
And this was when I released them. She'd rather die than to have them go anywhere else. It's so bad.
Yes.
Like the worst thing, not the worst thing, but she would drive in her car with them seat belted and just go cruising with them. And you get close to them and she will get like, I mean, like a cat gets all crazy. She does not want you close to them or touching them. And I've been affected by them, but I'll talk to another story for another day.
Yes.
I've actually got the doll that was deemed the most haunted UK doll, the original most haunted UK doll. Not that's coming to me in the next couple of weeks.
Nice.
So I'm gonna have a few weeks of investigating that in my house with that. So
nice.
You know, me and Drew and Audra and Nancy were starting to feel a little left out over here.
Sorry, guys.
So this is my show. Thank you. But no, I really want to thank all of you for being on, and I want to have all of you individually on the show. I had Mike and Drew on the show, so Michelle and Dan and of course Audra and Nancy. So if we can keep in contact, and I'd like to have you individually on the show, and we will try to set up this again, maybe another week or two.
Sounds great.
Sounds wonderful.
Good. Yeah. So y'all get ready to like, cuss and throw stuff and bitch each
My
other
kind of
out.
show.
Let's make it as dramatic as possible. Maybe we can get on Jersey Shore or something like that.
That's it.
But everybody that's joined us, whether on YouTube or on one of the other platforms, thank you for joining us. And I look forward to doing this again, and I hope y'all are too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank y'all.
You all as well.
Po' boy.